All right, for the next few minutes, we're going to crack open a really powerful and honestly pretty provocative framework from Rishi Khullar's The Ancient Algorithm. Now, it's sold as a user manual for the human brain, but as you'll see, it reads a lot more like a playbook for an invasion. The whole idea is that the code running our minds is ancient, and in today's world, it is dangerously full of backdoors.
And this is the world we're all operating in. Khullar kicks things off with this incredible metaphor. You, the creator, the small business owner, the entrepreneur, you are completely biologically outmatched. The ocean is the internet, right? And the whales? Well, they're the apex predators who built the whole thing. So let's just be crystal clear about what this fight is really about. It's not just unfair. We're talking about asymmetrical warfare here. The giants, you know who I mean, Google, Meta, Amazon, they didn't just build the playground. They literally engineered it to feed their own needs, their own hunger for our attention.
This slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the apex predators with basically infinite money and total surveillance data. And on your side, your main operating system is a Stone Age brain. The book is absolutely ruthless on this point. Trying to compete on their terms, buying their ads, playing by their rules, is like paying for your own execution. You just can't outspend a whale.
And this is the whole point. Here's the pivot. Here's the back door. While those giants run on silicon-based algorithms, the herd they're trying to control, that's all of us. We run on a much older, way more powerful, and it turns out far more exploitable code, a biological code. And that's exactly where the tiny organism finds its edge.
So this advantage is built on what you could call a glitch in our brains. But glitch isn't really the right word. It's not a flaw, it's a fundamental mismatch. This is the central vulnerability that the ancient algorithm is designed to target, and it's the reason our brains are so easily hijacked in the modern world. This vulnerability is explained by something called mismatch theory. Think of it like this. Our Stone Age software, our brain's operating system, was perfected for a world that disappeared 10,000 years ago. But we're trying to run that same software in this totally hyper-engineered modern environment. The result? It's a system-wide crash. It's anxiety, it's loneliness, it's constant overwhelm. I mean, just try to picture the world our brains were actually forged in. We lived in small, stable tribes of maybe 100 people max. Resources were scarce. Dangers were obvious and physical, like a lion in the grass. Sugar was a piece of fruit you found once in a while. And silence was the default. Now, let's crash cut to the world we inhabit today. We're surrounded by an infinite number of strangers. We're constantly bombarded by engineered super stimuli, likes, notifications, infinite scrolls, all of them designed to be louder and brighter than anything in nature. And our threats? They're abstract and they're constant. An email from your boss, a dip in the stock market. The crazy part is, our ancient wiring literally can't tell the difference between that email and the lion. So the big question is, how do you actually weaponize this mismatch? How do you turn this biological vulnerability into a tool for, well, contagion? According to the book, the answer is a surprisingly simple but incredibly profound formula that governs every single human action. It all starts with the work of Dr. B.J. Fogg at Stanford. His model is called B equals MAP, and it's basically the physics of behavior. For any action to happen, three things have to converge at the exact same moment. You need motivation, you have to want to do it, you need ability, you have to be able to do it, and you need a prompt. Something has to trigger you to do it. If even one of those is missing, the behavior just fails. It doesn't happen. And right here, this is the core secret of the ancient algorithm. It's this ruthless translation of Fogg's polite academic model into the raw language of evolutionary biology. So motivation becomes a hijack of our deepest biological drives. Ability becomes all about exploiting our ancient need for energy conservation. And a prompt becomes a super stimulus, designed specifically to breach our sensory defenses. Now, to pull off the hijack, you first have to understand who or what you're hijacking. And here's the kicker. You're not selling to a single rational person. You're selling to a whole committee, a colony of 7 competing actors, or subselves, all living inside every human brain. And each one has its own ancient survival mission. First up, you've got the Night Watchman. Its one and only job is to keep you alive. That's it. It evolved to scan the horizon for lions, but now it's just bored and paranoid. So it treats a dip in the stock market with the same life or death urgency.
And that's the source of all our constant low-grade anxiety.
Then there's the team player. Its prime directive: do not get kicked out of the tribe. Because for our ancestors, exile literally meant death. Today, that deep fear shows up as a crippling fear of missing out, FOMO, and a desperate addiction to likes and notifications just to prove we still belong. Always pushing, always striving is the go-getter. It's obsessed with climbing the social ladder. See, higher status used to mean better access to resources. Now, it's trapped in this state of permanent prestige anxiety, comparing itself not to the 50 people in its tribe, but to 8 billion people on Instagram. Now, operating on a totally different frequency is the swinging single. Its mission is brutally simple: reproduce. It is hardwired for novelty and for instant gratification, which makes it an incredibly easy target for super stimuli, like dating apps, that completely bypass any thought of long-term consequences. A really powerful counterpart to that is the parent circuit. It's laser-focused on protecting our kids. But without that ancient village of support, the modern parent is just crushed by what the book calls good parent guilt, making them desperate for any tool or product that promises some relief or a developmental edge for their child.
And deeper still, we find the compulsive. This is our ancient pathogen avoidance system. In our hyper-clean, modern world, it tends to misfire all the time, driving these massive wellness and skincare industries by promising a return to some imaginary state of biological purity.
And finally, we have the good spouse. Its core job is to maintain the pair bond, to avoid abandonment at all costs. Its modern vulnerability is this constant insecurity, which gets triggered by seeing all the perfect relationships in the media, creating this deep need for signals of commitment and security. Okay, so we know the vulnerability and we've met the targets inside the brain. Now let's get into the practical blueprint for infection. This is where we translate all that biological theory into some ruthless, actionable tactics. The first tactic is all about ability, which really just means energy conservation. And the rule here is crucial. It's the 3-click rule. The Stone Age brain is ruthlessly lazy. Its primary job is to conserve calories. If your product requires thinking, or making a hard decision, or more than a couple of clicks, the brain sees it as a threat to its energy budget and just shuts down. You absolutely must engineer zero friction. And just as you remove all the friction from getting in, you have to engineer massive friction for getting out. This is what the book calls the Alcatraz protocol. You make canceling a subscription so biologically expensive, you bury the button, you require a phone call, you trigger their fear of losing something, that the user's lazy brain just gives up and decides, you know what, it's easier to just keep paying. Finally, the ultimate goal is contagion without spending any money. You get there by turning your users into what the book calls asymptomatic carriers. Your product is engineered so that the very act of using it becomes a way to transmit it. Think about the classic "sent from my iPhone" signature. The user spreads your virus for you, just by living their life. So, that's the core thesis of the ancient algorithm. For decades, this kind of science was hoarded by the giants to build their empires. But according to Rishi, that code is now open source. The blueprint is out there. And that leaves us with a final, really provocative question. In this totally unfair fight, are you going to keep competing on the whale's terms, or are you going to learn how to invade?